It's day one of the celebrity trial gripping much of the nation. Sean Diddy Combs, once one of entertainment's most powerful moguls, accused of crime.
The first witness is now on the stand in the federal sex trafficking trial for Sean Diddy Combs in New York City after final jury selection and opening statements this morning.
What follows is for educational and entertainment purposes only. This presentation draws from federal courtroom transcripts and first-hand coverage by inner-city press. No one anticipated Janice Combs, the mother of Sean Diddy Combs, would break her silence. Not after the federal raids, not after the explosive witness testimonies, not even after the disturbing video evidence, but now she has. And what she said isn't just a mother's defense of her son, it's something far more unsettling. Janice's public statement on its surface read like a plea for compassion. But hidden within her words was a single line, one that has since ignited a firestorm among prosecutors, legal experts, journalists, and former industry insiders. She wasn't merely denying the allegations. She was, whether intentionally or not, revealing that she knew something buried, perhaps willfully forgotten, for more than 2 decades. In this video, we dissect what Janice Combs just revealed, what she might have seen firsthand, and how her statement could crack open one of the darkest, most closely guarded secrets in the history of hip-hop. This may very well be the moment everything begins to unravel. When Janice released her public defense of her son, many assumed it would follow a familiar script: family loyalty, emotional appeals, and unwavering denial. And at a glance, it did. She described the federal allegations as a modern-day public lynching. She expressed heartbreak, sorrow, and asked the public to withhold judgment until the full truth emerged. But this wasn't just about what she said, it was about what she left unsaid, and most chillingly, one phrase that struck like a lightning: bolt. That sentence shattered the quiet. It flipped the entire narrative. Within hours, social media lit up. Legal analysts began parsing every syllable. Courtroom observers took notice. Reporters went digging. What exactly did Janice see? What did she warn her son about? And why is she speaking now after years of silence? The statement didn't deny the specific claims. It didn't accuse federal agents of planting evidence. It didn't reject the existence of the videos, the messages, or the sworn testimonies. Instead, it leaned into emotional terrain. How painful it was to see her son's character destroyed, not necessarily for what he did, but for what people believe about him. Legal minds immediately flagged this. This isn't a denial, one prosecutor told CNN. It's a redirection. She's shifting focus from facts to feelings, from allegations to perception. By the time Janice spoke, the public had already heard the grim details. Cassie's harrowing testimony, the secret tunnels, the so-called freak-off parties, the leaked messages. So when Janice's statement didn't categorically deny anything, it didn't just raise eyebrows, it raised suspicions. For decades, Janice Combs had maintained a near-complete silence through Diddy's most public controversies: club shootings, lawsuits, tabloid scandals. She never spoke. That single line became the epicenter of a media storm. It was like a sliver of glass hidden in a velvet glove, easy to miss, but once discovered, impossible to ignore. Attorneys, former insiders, and the court of public opinion all began asking, what did she know? And how long had she known it? Speculation grew that Janice had witnessed, or at the very least, suspected, inappropriate conduct years ago. If so, her failure to act could now carry legal consequences. Was this a mother desperately trying to protect her child, or was she trying to quietly distance herself from what's coming next? Around 2005, Janice stopped appearing publicly alongside Diddy. No more award shows, no more family photo ops, no more cozy mother-son features in glossy magazines. Sources close to the family told journalists that Janice had slowly distanced herself from the music industry years ago. She knew something wasn't right, one former Bad Boy Entertainment employee said. She never said it directly, but you could tell. She was scared, or maybe exhausted. What if Janice Combs saw the storm coming and tried to intervene, but was ignored, silenced, or even threatened? As attorneys for various accusers circle, Janice's cryptic statement may have placed her squarely in the legal crosshairs. If she had prior knowledge of criminal activity and failed to report it, she could become not just a witness, but a liability. And now, the mother who once stood quietly in the background may become the center of the legal and moral reckoning. To understand the full weight of her words, we must go back to before the charts, before the fame, before the empire. Janice. Combs wasn't always the matriarch of a hip-hop dynasty. She was a single mother in Harlem, raising a son alone after tragedy struck. Janice, a former model and teacher's assistant, carried her son through a world marked by pain, perseverance, and ambition. But what did that journey really cost? And how long has she carried the burden of knowing too much? Janice Combs wasn't just a mother. She was a woman who had sacrificed everything to pull her son out of Harlem's shadows. A teacher's assistant scraping by, she poured her hope into Sean, believed in his talent, and when he exploded onto the music scene in the early 1990s, she became his loudest cheerleader. As Bad Boy Records began its meteoric rise, those closest to the family noticed a subtle fracture forming, not in the business, but in the bond between mother and son. Diddy got too big, too fast, one family friend told. The cut. And Janice, she just couldn't keep pace. She didn't like the world he was building, but he stopped listening. A former Combs Enterprises staffer recalled an incident that still lingers in their memory. Janice showing up to a lavish event, uninvited. She stayed for barely 20 minutes, kept to herself in a corner of the room, visibly uneasy. It was one of those parties, girls wearing next to nothing, cameras flashing everywhere. Janice didn't speak to anyone. Then she left. No goodbyes. After that, her presence alongside Diddy faded. No red carpets, no interviews, no family photo ops. Whispers began to circulate. She didn't approve, not of the women around him, not of the way he treated them, and certainly not of the decadent empire he was building. This lifestyle is going to destroy him, she reportedly told a close friend. It's not what I raised him to be. Even behind closed doors, the relationship strained. Financially, he took care of her, but emotionally, the distance was growing. She'd visit the house, have dinner, and leave, said a former private chef from Diddy's Los Angeles mansion. She never lingered. It felt like she couldn't bear to witness what he was becoming. So when Janice made her recent statement, when she uttered, "I warned him," it didn't feel random. It felt earned. It made sense. She had seen the evolution up close, the parties, the girls, the rumors, and she had spoken. But the question that continues to echo is this: what did he say back? Diddy has never acknowledged his mother's disapproval in any interview. In public, he painted her as a pillar of strength and sacrifice, never once hinting at the silent tension that grew in the background. Because this trial isn't just about Diddy anymore. The courtroom may soon begin asking what his mother knew and why she said nothing. Behind the cameras, Janice Combs wasn't merely a supportive parent. She was an observer, a witness, and possibly the first person who saw the cracks forming in the empire her son built. But one night in 2003, at a party in Miami, would become a defining moment. A night insiders have whispered about for years. It was supposed to be a celebratory weekend, a private estate, a curated guest list of artists, executives, and influencers. Diddy brought family along, including Janice, as he often did in the early 2000s. At first, it was standard excess: expensive champagne, security guards at every entrance, chefs flown in from Europe. But as the night stretched on, something darker began to emerge. According to a former Bad Boy staffer, Janice noticed a young woman, scantily dressed, visibly nervous, being led down a hallway by two assistants. Janice didn't. She left, immediately, without speaking to her son, without waiting for the car arranged by his team. She called her own ride, vanished into the night, and never attended another one of his events again. That story has lingered behind closed doors for years, an open secret. But only now, in the wake of her cryptic statement, has it resurfaced. With weight. If that's true, it means Janice Combs witnessed the early symptoms of the behavior that's now being dissected in court. Young women being funneled through lavish homes, stripped of agency under the guise of glamour, silence bought with wealth. And in 2025, that night in Miami isn't just a haunting memory, it's a potential piece of evidence. Because if Janice saw what many now believe she did, and remained silent for over 20 years, she didn't just leave the party, she walked away from the truth. There's a difference between walking away and staying quiet. And for many watching this case unfold, the real question is, by the mid-2000s, Sean Combs wasn't just a rapper, he was a brand. He controlled music, fashion, alcohol, television, and Janice? She lived inside that brand. Multiple sources claim her lifestyle, from luxury real estate in New Jersey to private drivers and travel expenses, was all tied directly to his empire. She wasn't on payroll, a former accountant explained. But she was on the books. If she ever said something that risked his image, that lifestyle vanished. Diddy's legal team was known in the industry for its aggressive tactics, non-disclosure agreements, defamation threats, even private investigators. A family friend recalls a moment in 2011 when Janice broke down during a private conversation. That same year, whispers emerged that Janice had begun working on a memoir, a project that was quietly and mysteriously shelved. The memoir project disappeared almost as quickly as it emerged, a ghost manuscript whispered about in industry. Circles, gone without explanation. But those close to the situation say the silence wasn't voluntary. Legal heat from Diddy's team crushed it before it could take form. A therapist who once worked with a former Combs staffer described the environment inside Diddy's world as emotional captivity. He didn't just write checks, he wrote the rules. He'd remind people who owed him, who fed their families, who gave them a name, the therapist said. It wasn't loyalty, it was ownership, to admit he might be hurting people, to confront. The possibility that the boy she raised had turned into someone dangerous meant confronting a kind of heartbreak most mothers never imagine. On the fourth day of Cassie Ventura's testimony, the courtroom was electric with tension. Journalists were packed shoulder to shoulder, cameras lined the hallway. Prosecutors were preparing to introduce a tranche of digital evidence, messages and images from 2009 to 2017, the same years Janice had gone completely off the radar. Cassie, speaking with a quiet steadiness, testified that Diddy had maintained a blacklist of men she wasn't allowed to speak to. He micromanaged her prescriptions, tapped her devices, and forced her into what he called freak-offs, drug-fueled sex parties involving strangers, escorts, cameras, and coercion. She described one night when she tried to flee. He hurled a bottle at her and blocked the exit. Cassie wasn't accusing Janice of participating. She never said she endorsed it, but she claimed Janice was present, that she had seen the girls, seen the fear, and walked away. Later that evening, according to a source close to her legal team, Janice called her lawyer, crying, shaken. Not with denial, but something far heavier. And 2 days later, her official statement dropped. The world read it. One line echoed louder than all the rest. That sentence is now burned into the fabric of the case, not just as a confession, but as an indictment of silence. Because sometimes, silence screams louder than guilt. While cameras and courtrooms captured the spectacle, a quieter reckoning unfolded behind closed doors. After Diddy was taken into federal custody, he was placed on restricted communication due to the nature of the sex trafficking charges. Every phone call from jail was monitored, and one in particular raised flags. The transcript hasn't been made public, but leaks from within the investigation suggest that the call was a powder keg. It began lightly. Diddy, trying to downplay. The firestorm, asked about the kids, mocked the headlines, but Janice wasn't playing along. Her voice, described as low but heavy with emotion, cut through his performance. You built this, she told him. You don't get to blame the world when you made these choices. You think the money protects you. It doesn't. And I've told them everything I needed to say. That line is now a point of inquiry. Who had she spoken to? When? And was she preparing to testify? If Janice Combs has already shared what she knows, formally or informally, she could become a seismic figure in this trial. Not as a conspirator, not as an enabler, but as a witness who lived inside the walls of power long enough to see what the world only suspected. After the statement went viral, prosecutors obtained a subpoena for Janice's personal writings and correspondence, journals, emails, letters. Most of what they found was emotionally raw but legally irrelevant. Reflections, regrets, motherly anguish. The girls are so young. They look terrified, but no one says a word. I think they're scared of him. I know I am. It wasn't a sworn statement. It wasn't a formal admission, but it was something perhaps more powerful. A mother finally wrestling with the monster she didn't want to see, and the complicity that comes from doing nothing. Now that page, fragile, handwritten, emotional, sits in the hands of the prosecution, a possible piece of evidence that Janice knew. For years, Janice Combs stood quietly in the background of one of hip-hop's most towering empires, a supportive mother whose unwavering love helped elevate her son, Sean Diddy, Combs from Harlem streets to global stardom. She was the proud woman in the front row, the force behind the dream, the parent who pushed, prayed, and sacrificed. But now, she is something else entirely, an unwilling witness to the unraveling of that very empire. It wasn't just a mother-son bond being examined anymore. It was legacy, complicity, and conscience. The courtroom tension surrounding Diddy's high-profile sex trafficking case had already gripped the nation. Accusations spanned over a decade, involving coercion, intimidation, and allegations of a hidden network of abuse that many claimed was facilitated behind a curtain of celebrity and silence. But when Janice Combs' name was spoken aloud during Cassie Ventura's harrowing testimony, something shifted in the public consciousness. It wasn't just the artists, the assistants, the girlfriends, or the security teams anymore. It was his own mother. According to Cassie, one of the most damaging details wasn't just about what happened at Diddy's infamous parties, but who was around. At a house in Miami, she testified, Janice was present one evening where the energy turned dark, where the girls were young, nervous, and barely dressed. And though Janice didn't participate, Cassie stated, she saw us. Janice Combs, long viewed as the moral compass of her son's rise, was now being re-examined as someone who may have witnessed something. Maybe not everything, but enough to warrant questions. And more importantly, enough to have spoken up. For now, over 2 decades, Janice remained publicly silent. Insiders say she wrestled with guilt and fear, trapped between maternal instinct and emotional paralysis. When the first lawsuit surfaced, she issued no denials but also offered no confirmations. Her name was absent from any legal filings, but rumors swirled that she had been quietly distancing herself from the chaos orbiting her son. In a development few could have anticipated, sources within the prosecution team confirmed that Janice Combs has agreed to provide a sealed private deposition to federal authorities. It's not a public spectacle, at least not yet, but her words will be recorded, transcribed, and admissible should they be deemed necessary. This is monumental, said one legal analyst. Not because she's a direct witness to every act, but because she knew enough, and because of who she is. This wasn't just another assistant flipping. This was the mother, the original believer. And now, the first to say, I no longer can. It all traces back to one now infamous night in 2003. A party in Miami, cloaked in extravagance and secrecy, had been referenced in whispers for years by those close to the Combs' inner circle. But it wasn't until Janice's recent statement and emerging witness accounts that investigators began retracing their steps. According to one former event staffer, Janice arrived to the private estate with a friend, expecting a standard industry gathering, artists, producers, champagne toasts. Instead, what she encountered was something altogether more sinister. She walked into a scene that didn't match what she thought her son represented, the source recalled. Girls looked scared, like they didn't want to be there. The vibe wasn't just wild, it was off. It was then Janice reportedly asked a staff member, "Why does she look frightened?" The chilling reply, "Don't ask questions, just enjoy the party." No goodbyes, no ride from the driver who had brought her. She called her own car, walked out in silence and, according to sources close to the family, never attended another one of Diddy's events again. The story lingered in private circles but was never publicly confirmed, until now. Her statement, issued just days after Cassie's courtroom revelations, acknowledged that something changed that night in Miami. Though brief, it confirmed what many had feared. Janice saw enough to be disturbed. It's easy to ask why Janice didn't speak up earlier. Why a woman known for her moral compass, who had helped build her son's brand from the ground up, didn't blow the whistle when she saw things go awry. The answer, say those who know the family well, isn't as simple as fear or complicity. It's a mix of both, threaded with guilt, control, and deep psychological warfare. She loved him, said a longtime family friend, but she was afraid of what he was becoming. Financial dependency also played a significant role. Multiple sources confirmed that Janice's lifestyle, from her real estate holdings in New Jersey to her private security and travel, was funded entirely through Diddy's business empire. While not officially on payroll, she was listed as a dependent executive associate in some records. She wasn't an employee, but she was on the books, one former accountant said. If she spoke out, that entire support system could collapse. Moreover, Diddy's legal apparatus was notorious for its reach and ruthlessness. Non-disclosure agreements, surveillance, and legal intimidation were part of the arsenal used to maintain silence within the empire. One ex-staffer even recalled a moment in 2011 where Janice briefly considered writing a memoir. It was shut down immediately. Whether that was literal or metaphorical remains unclear. But it worked. The manuscript was scrapped, and Janice remained, invisible. What finally broke her? According to insiders, it wasn't just the courtroom drama. It was a phone call. A recorded call between Diddy and his mother, placed after Cassie's testimony, was flagged by investigators. It started casual. He joked about the media circus, asked about his kids, but when Janice didn't laugh, the mood shifted. What followed, according to a source who reviewed the transcript, was an emotional explosion. Diddy snapped, "Don't. Start preaching now, Ma. I don't need this from you." But Janice didn't stop. "You don't get to blame the world when you built this," she said. "You made these choices. You think the money protects you, but it doesn't. And I've told them everything I needed to say." That last sentence, "I've told them everything," sent shockwaves through the prosecution team. It was a turning point, said one court insider. She wasn't just disillusioned, she was ready to talk. Shortly after that call, federal authorities requested a subpoena for Janice's personal records. Among the items submitted under protective seal was a leather-bound journal dated August 2017. Inside, they found a single entry that would redefine the narrative. It continued, "These girls, they're so young. They look scared. But no one says anything. I think they're afraid of him. I am too. He has too many people on payroll to ever hear the truth. If what he's doing is real, I've failed." The camera pans across a tense courtroom. Sean Diddy Combs sits at the defense table, his expression stoic. Behind him, his mother, Janice Combs, sits with a composed demeanor, her eyes fixed on the proceedings. In the heart of Manhattan, a high-profile trial unfolds. Sean Diddy Combs, a titan of the music industry, faces grave charges: sex trafficking, racketeering, and more. The courtroom buzzes with anticipation, media, and public alike hanging on every clip of Diddy's early career, his rise in the music world, and moments with his mother at award shows. Janice Combs, a former model and teacher's assistant, stood by her son through every triumph and tribulation. From humble beginnings in Harlem to the pinnacle of global fame, their bond seemed unbreakable. Her words echoed a mother's unwavering support. Yet, beneath the surface, a more complex narrative simmered. Clips of testimonies from alleged victims, including Cassie Ventura, detailing harrowing experiences. As testimonies unfolded, painting a picture of manipulation and abuse, the courtroom's atmosphere grew heavier. Janice's composed facade began to show cracks. Behind closed doors, Janice grappled with a haunting realization. Memories resurfaced, events she'd witnessed, moments she'd dismissed. A particular night in 2003 stood out. A party in Miami, a young woman appearing frightened, and a chilling response when Janice voiced concern. "I saw things I chose to ignore. I thought I was protecting him, but perhaps I was enabling him." Her confession sent shockwaves through the courtroom and the public. The image of a mother blindly defending her son shattered, replaced by a woman confronting painful truths. Janice's admission could be pivotal. It not only humanizes the narrative, but also provides corroborative evidence to the allegations. The prosecution seized the opportunity, introducing Janice's past journal entries as evidence, entries that hinted at her suspicions, her fears, and her internal conflicts. The public grappled with mixed emotions. Some lauded Janice's courage. Others questioned her delayed revelation. The trial's focus shifted, not just on Diddy's actions, but also on the enablers, the silent witnesses. As the trial neared its conclusion, the jury faced a complex web of testimonies, evidence, and emotions. At its center stood a mother, torn between love and truth, her final words lingering. In the pursuit of justice, silence can be as damning as the crime itself. Janice Combs's journey from defender to whistleblower serves as a poignant reminder of the complexities of love, loyalty, and accountability.